latest episode of Absolute Candor. This time we are reviewing the Season 2 finale of HBO's The Last of Us, Season 2, Episode 7, Convergence. This, as we have discussed, was the major turning point in the narrative. That, for those of you that are familiar with the game, will know that we switch perspectives now to Abby. Don't want to get ahead of myself too much. I know obviously that I've just referenced the ending there, but a lot of the beats that I was expecting to happen, this theatre sequence, which obviously I've been trying to avoid sort of being too spoilerific about, but and it sounds sort of very easy for me to sort of say, well, that's exactly what I expected, but that is indeed it kind of concluded in the way that I was expecting, and is obviously left us on one hell of a cliffhanger, leading into what is potentially going to be quite a wait for the third season. There's a good chance we won't be getting that until 2027. If the gap from seasons 1 to 2 is any indication. There was a writer's strike in there, so I don't know whether there's perhaps, or an actor's strike, wasn't it, I believe. So whether that has an impact or not, we don't know. But here we are. We are at the end of our first sort of run of Absolute Candor, and wrapping it out now with our thoughts and views on this final episode of Season 2. Mike, what was your takeaway? What was your gut reaction from this one?
Bad. I had bad. My gut reaction was bad. I've been positive about the whole season. Yep. Even the lowest point for me of the season was still like 4 out of 5, maybe 3 out of 5. Like it's been really solid. I just felt this episode was a bit all over the place, which I think we kind of thought might be an issue because they hadn't left themselves enough time. It felt really, really rushed. Not in terms of how it was produced or anything, but like just cramming stuff in that they felt they had to do, whereas really I think it needed some editing to say, let's just get the bit with where she goes on the boat and then encounters the scars, and it's like 2 minutes encounter with the scars, and then she's back in the boat again. It's just like, what were they thinking with that?
Well, I'm glad you referenced that, because that was one of the most egregious points of this episode that I thought really didn't work. I think a lot of our concerns were validated. It was too much was squeezed into one. And that sequence where she ends up on Scar Island and then continues to the aquarium was an addition. That does not happen in the game at all. And it felt like it was the only way, in their minds, it was almost like the only way they could set up the fact that we saw the boats, Isaac's boats from the WLF leaving, and then the explosions on Scar Island. That would have been enough, I think. I actually don't feel like they needed to over-explain that so much by going, oh, no, it's the Scars they're attacking, and having Ellie be captured by them briefly. It's completely out of character for the Scars as well to let her go. That was really odd. I know that they reacted to the explosions going off, but they would absolutely have just done a quick ceremony, killed her, and then gone. Yeah. There's no way they would leave her like the way they did. It felt like that was actually the first moment that I felt like there was plot armor around a character, that the story necessitated. They set up her being under threat, and absolutely that should have been it for her. That if you were to track how bold they've been with the storytelling up to this point, look at Jesse's death. I know we're bouncing around a lot right now, but look how bold a choice that was to have that moment. And that moment is probably one of the standout moments for me from this episode, actually. There's a real strength, I think, the way that his character was featured so prominently. They got that lovely moment in the theatre, and then he's just brutally taken out of the picture.
And they love, they like, as we had with Joel as well, that's like a real kind of statement that the show does. It like brings you just as you think characters have resolved something, or you're longing for them to have more time together, then it like kills someone off. And it's really effectively done. But yeah, the pace of his death in this was just really you don't get a death like that. Normally it's drawn out and built up to, and it was the shock factor of it was really really
so we look at the Scars. I think that was definitely a low point for the episode in terms of the it also felt like a needless detour as well. It felt like we didn't need that reminder. It was enough to see the boats leaving and the explosions in the distance to know that, that's Isaac now making a move, and that conflict will inevitably play out in season 3. But
we knew they were it was explicitly said that the WLF were there was an operation going on, and then we saw the going off in the boats, like you said. We didn't really need more than that. The bit in the aquarium I thought was good, but it also felt rushed. I don't think Ellie had enough time to process what she'd done. Like, it was a really effective scene, but it felt rushed. And the interaction with Ellie and the woman, I'm not sure what her name is,
that's
the pregnant woman.
Mel and Owen, the two fireflies.
I just wanted more time in that scene.
It's just that's it again. It just felt like that there was. Well, first of all, I don't think we feel like we've spent enough time with the Firefly characters for that moment to have really landed. Obviously, the pregnancy reveal is really shocking, and it gives it a certain weight now that Dean has been a bit more involved in the story compared to the game, and she wasn't just sidelined like she is in the video game. It being an accident that Mel gets shot, I really didn't like, and I think I didn't like it because of what the video game does. The video game, Ellie straight up executes them both. And it is a choice, and it's horrible, and it makes you hate Ellie, and it does exactly what it's supposed to do. And then you immediately, after that, Tommy and Jesse rush in, take Ellie back to the theatre, and then you get the showdown, that final sequence.
And she's pregnant in the game as well?
She is, yes. So that reveal
is... Did you know that when she kills her?
No. The reveal happens in both cases, in that it's a surprise when she goes to check on her body, but she straight up kills both characters, and there's actually a physical fight. It's not just a shot. There's a physical fight between you and Mel, and then Ellie ends up overpowering her, kills her, and then it's revealed that she's pregnant. It is so much more impactful. That
is a little bit different though, as opposed to like killing, because if she killed her in the way this scene is done, she would have had to kill her basically in cold blood because she was unarmed, and standing away from her. Whereas if they'd come to blows, it would be a bit different, that she'd kind of overpowered her.
It is. But that's
I mean, I'd need to see the scene in the game.
That's the thing. I couldn't separate my knowledge of the game from that moment, and it really didn't. I don't think it gave us. It just played the expected emotion, which was Ellie was shocked that she'd killed someone accidentally. She was only targeting Owen. And it removed, I think, it basically seemed like it was going to great pains to make it sure that Ellie wasn't unlikable. Or that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I felt, especially the way she was talking to Ellie, like trying to get her to help the baby and stuff, as if they were almost on the same side, and it was just the guy being a dick, and that's why he got shot. And Ellie and they could have basically resolved it amicably.
Yes,
if he wasn't there.
It didn't have the tension, I think, that it needed for that scene to actually have the impact that they intended for it. And I really couldn't divorce my knowledge of the scene from the game from that moment for that reason, because I was just comparing it. But I think even if you took that away from it and just took the scene standalone, I think it was too fast. There wasn't enough interplay. We hadn't spent enough time with those characters. You spend actually a significant amount of time in the prologue of The Last of Us Part 2 playing as Abby with Owen.
And we'll see more of them, I guess, in the next season.
But that's the problem, isn't it? Is that in the game, you'd spent time with those characters, and then obviously Ellie kills them. It then switches gears, you go to Abby. But you've spent time with those people before they've been brutally killed. In the show, because of its runtime and the way they've handled the pacing, we barely, I remember one of the first things we said, I think I mentioned in the first episode of this season, was how I didn't like the dialogue. It felt like it was just, let's give every Firefly character a line in this. It was like one character was speaking, but three people said things. And it just meant there just wasn't enough time spent with these characters for these moments. If you take it away the game and just look at the show itself, for those deaths to have the impact that they wanted, we didn't have enough time with Mel and Owen to care about those deaths. And that was a big failure, I think, for the show for me. It just didn't work.
I think the upside of that will be in the next season. Similar, again, to the stuff with Joel in the previous episode. We will know that they're both going to die, and that they'll talk about her pregnancy, and that they're already happy that she's pregnant and all this stuff. And then we'll obviously know that ultimately...
So
we do get the benefit of that in the next season.
Retroactively, we're going to get the perspective shift in Season 3, and we're going to get that context. It just... It's tricky, isn't it? Because you've obviously got a show so clearly designed. This narrative is designed to play out over multiple seasons. It's so clearly like structured that way, and especially the very, very ending. Again, I know we're jumping around, but to state explicitly Seattle day one, setting up immediately what season 3 is going to look like. That is clear to me that was an intentional choice, and they know what they're doing in terms of their plan.
Yeah.
It just is too short. We just haven't spent the time with these characters we needed.
So that was my other. So my other major issue was the cliffhanger, because from what I understand or what I imagine, we won't get the resolution to that cliffhanger basically until the end of the next season. So we're going to be waiting, like you said, possibly 2 years, and then 7 episodes or however many it is until we get. So I would have liked if the cliffhanger was
the shot
with Abby coming in and shooting him.
Yeah.
And that was a cliffhanger. Wouldn't have minded that, because you think, okay, next season we'll get the resolution, and even if it made the resolution at the end of the season, that would have been okay. But then saying day one Seattle, it's like just takes you completely out of that suspenseful moment and puts you in, and you're like, what's going on here? And then the episode finishes. It's like, oh, just kind of killed the vibe at the end of the episode. And I think everyone who's not familiar with the game, we'd obviously talked about it, so you'd already basically said it's going to shift to Abby's perspective.
Yeah.
So I had that context, but I think if you didn't have that context, that's a really weird way to end the season, because not everyone would make that connection. Oh, next season we're going to be starting at day one.
We're going to get Abby's story, and we're going to see Seattle.
Who would think that?
Because I don't think anyone's remembering Seattle day 1, 2, 3 in terms of it being structured like that in the last few episodes. They're just seeing Ellie's journey. I don't think they were thinking from the show's side that that's what that was, and seeing them the jump to Seattle day 1 again, back to her. I agree. I don't think that connects. I think it's a case of them actually trying to be too beholden to the source material. I think the balance went too far the other way. They were too beholden to the game, which has that structure, which works brilliantly in the game. You get this shocking scene, and then suddenly it flashes back, and you get to be in Abby's shoes, and you hate her at that point. And it spends the next 3, 4, 5 hours of the game with her, not redeeming her, but helping you understand her. You get flashbacks with her father. You get like all kinds of lovely little relationship moments between her and the other Fireflies. And I'm hoping that they dig deep on that. I actually would be okay if season 3 spent 2, even 3 episodes slowing down and just bedding in with Abby. I don't want to. What I don't want to do is because Seattle Day 3 is the theater, is her bursting in. Yeah. I don't want episode 3 to be Seattle Day 3. I don't want that to suddenly just jump straight in. I think there is also potentially scope that if now again I'm going to remove the video game from the conversation. I want to just talk about the show. For me, as a viewer of the show, the ideal payoff for this is they fuck with our expectations. There's a lot more, and I obviously will never spoil this, but there's a lot that happens in that theater sequence following Jesse's death if they stick to the game source material. So an ideal scenario for me is we get bits of that every episode, and then
that'd be nice.
Build that narrative to keep us hooked in on the cliffhanger.
If you can avoid talking about it without spoiling anything, is the theater in general basically the end of the game?
No.
What there's stuff beyond the theater.
Oh yeah. Which actually, if season 3 is as short as season 2, could necessitate a season 4. There'd be enough there to continue. You know, I could see part 2 being spread out over 3 seasons of the HBO show in terms of the narrative. So absolutely, they could also definitely do what I hope they don't, which is that we get the resolution like Seattle Day 3 episodes in, and then smash through the end of Last of Us Part 2 story by the end of season 3.
Yeah, that'd be shit.
But
I feel like the whole...
That's the concern.
The only way the way they've done this makes sense is if we basically get a duplicate of season 2, but from Abby's perspective in season 3. Unless it's like 9 episodes long or something, and we have like 6 episodes from Abby's perspective, and then they finish it off properly. But...
I don't want to spend 5 episodes with Abby and then we get back to Ellie. I don't think I want that. I'd like to check in. I'd like to know, at least get something from that scene.
It's going to be hard though, isn't it? I don't know how they do that so that you can check in with Ellie without resolving the cliffhanger
Yeah,
early
because
in the season.
there is a lot there that again is not that has been deliberately obscured in the way that they shot it. And if they stick close to the source material and they introduce the characters that I'm expecting next season, that there's a lot more going on there that we haven't seen. What I want to do is I wanted to shift back now to this episode, and again, just now we've addressed, I've wrestled a little bit this series, us doing Absolute Candor, with finding the balance between my expectations of what I know versus what the show is presenting me, and I've figured out. I think I'm okay now making references to the source material and still reviewing the show on its own merits. And I want to switch gears to the show now, just of what they presented us, because given some of the actual the slightly unpolished CG we've had in a couple of sort of those wide shots, I think presentation wise, I think this episode was excellent. I thought the ocean sequences really clicked and they looked great. It was the detours that became the issue for me, and then the speed at which she found it, the aquarium.
The effects on the ocean were really good, and actually the aquarium, I really like that set at the aquarium. From a believability standpoint, the whole boat sequence was just insane. But it looked really good. But it's like she's going out in a tiny little boat. Even the WLF, the size of the waves when they were going out was like a bit crazy. And then she obviously got washed up on the beach and then was fine, and the boat was fine, and it was, but yeah, from a
production standpoint, I think that really sung. And I can't say enough good things about this cast. I just, for all of the discourse around Bella, especially seems to be around Bella Ramsey and her look rather than her acting ability. Even though I've still seen some shitty comments about that, I really have nothing but positivity for these actors. I think they've inhabited their roles incredibly well. I like the little bits of a bit more Tommy that we got in this episode again. I think he's been a bit underutilized this season. I would have liked to have seen a lot more from him. Mainly because I just think Gabriel Luna is doing a fantastic job in that character, playing opposite Pedro as well, seeing that interplay in those earlier episodes. Isabella Merced as Dina still remains my MVP of this season. I think she took a character that could actually be quite throwaway and quite superficial in many aspects and gave her depth. And I think that owes it to the writing too. They deepened her relationship with Joel. They've given her more context on her family than we get in the game. She's actually, I do think she's one of the weakest aspects of the game in terms of utilization. Yeah. She is quite underexplored. There's a real lacking in her narrative, and I think she did a fantastic job in this. And shout out to, I don't know the gentleman's name, and I wish I'd researched this, but the actor playing Jesse I thought was excellent in this. Really take charge. I like how forceful he was with Ellie, how competent he was, how she had that sort of that great argument scene, up high when they split off in the tower. I thought that worked really well. His interplay with Bella Ramsey was great. And also, I do just want to quickly add in Caitlin Dever as Abby. We don't spend enough time with her. I think that's the show's fault, not the actress's fault. I think some of her writing has been really inconsistent this season, but she came in like a force in that closing scene, that second to last scene. And it did. Her arrival did actually have the weight that I think it needed, where the tension in the aquarium between Owen and Mel didn't connect for me particularly. I think her arrival did. They did an excellent job making her feel credible, and a lot of that is down to the writing, but so much of that I put on Caitlin Dever's performance as Abby. I think she was outstanding in this.
The realization that it was Ellie there. Like we had a bit of that at the aquarium, but it was so much more effective when Abby recognized her in the theatre scene. Was
the thing which she said about you've wasted it. We let you go and you've wasted it, and just that the whole justification for what she then does is great. Well,
probably one of my favourite scenes was when Ellie's telling Dina about the firefly, what Joel did to the fireflies, and it would have been really nice for that to have been worked in with maybe like the Abby flashbacks or that from Abby's point of view, because that it kind of put into perspective. Like you think maybe Dina would just take Ellie's side, because we had Dina previously in like all out revenge mode earlier in the season, where she's just almost wants to kill everyone. She doesn't care. She's on Ellie's side. She'll do whatever Ellie says to get revenge for Joel dying. And then as soon as Ellie gives some context for why Joel did what he did, Dina's like, it's affecting her a lot. So I liked that scene a lot. I thought she played it really well.
Absolutely.
But it was maybe just, again, maybe a bit out of place in this episode for them to, because that was, I think, all the Dina that we got in this episode, really. And it was, just a bit out of place. Maybe could have been used better in the next season if we were to get. I don't know whether we'll get any of Ellie before the cliffhanger in the next season, or if they're just going to do what we said, Abby, and then up to the cliffhanger point.
Yeah, it's unclear, I think, how they're going to structure that, because you do spend a lot of time. Oh, hello, Pumpkin. You do spend a lot of time in the game away from Ellie, so there is, potential there that we do get that full shift to Abby. I don't know if I want that in the TV show context. I think the format allows a bit more flexibility with some cutting back and forth, and that was a great weakness of this season, I think, is the lack of time we spent with Tommy and the lack of time we spent with Joel. Obviously, I know it was to heighten his death. That episode 2, killing him off that early really was a bold choice, and I do like that they didn't, other than that scene with Ellie with the scars, they didn't plot armor any of these characters. It felt like having Dina be hit by the arrow and like all of that. It felt dangerous. I think. Also, shout out to Jeffrey Wright, who plays Isaac. Great portrayal, bringing him back from the game as well, and giving him those extra scenes and that extra context for his character. That was a really fun. Let's expand on the lore of the game opportunity that they really ran with, much like the Eugene and Gale as the therapist. I think they were all great additions, expanding on the lore. That was lovely. It's interesting actually, where they did then take some weird deviations that didn't always necessarily land, like the Scar Island. I think ultimately we had a really strong run overall. I think season 2 was a very strong effort. It's just definitely. I don't think they stuck the landing with that for everything we've outlined here, and it sets up an uncertain season 3. But I'm certainly like, I'd love to spend more time with Caitlin Dever. I think, again, much like Tommy, a great missed opportunity here to really spend some time with her, understanding that character before we get to this perspective shift. I think we needed more time with Abby before we get this. So that's a real shame from this season that we didn't get that. Looking ahead, I hope that becomes... they deliver. We get to spend some meaningful time with Abby, and getting that shift in perspective hopefully will pay off.
I think it is tough because I've seen some probably unreasonable articles about the ratings for the season like dropping off massively when Pedro wasn't in it anymore, and just generally towards the end of the season. But I think they will struggle for people that haven't played the game to keep them invested in season 3, when even obviously people are negative about Bella Ramsey, but I think that's generally just a small subset of the internet. I think for her not to even be at the start of season 3, if say you had 2 or 3 episodes that Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey are not in, that's asking quite a lot of the audience.
I think conceivably that could happen, especially if it's as rushed as we're worried it might be. Is that we are going to only get 7 episodes, and it's going to be, let's get to Seattle day 3 because we need to get to the end of this thing. I could also definitely see a scenario where we do not go beyond season 3, that this is a 3-season show, and that is it, which would be a real shame.
Yeah, I think if you go by ratings, it's
possible.
Hard to see season 3 being better than season 2, being better than season 1. I just in terms of the number of people that will have watched it, because but partly because of the nature of the story. Obviously, like we said, Joel was killed off. There's not much they can do that's faithful to the story, keeping him around. So, but it has an impact when you kill off the main character. So
yeah, for sure. Well, folks, thank you so much for tuning in to this first series run of Absolute Candor, Burly Bird Media's review podcast. We will be back in July. We can now announce our next series, which is going to be shifting gears to a genuine sort of like old school passion of ours, Star Trek. We're going to be reviewing season 3 of Strange New Worlds, which finally has a release date. It's been so long. Paramount Plus been hanging on to that for a hot minute. So we're going to be getting that in July. I believe that kicks off July 17th or 19th. Can't remember off the top of my head, but it'll be mid-July, and we'll be doing those weekly on Absolute Candor. We've got 10 episodes of that, so we'll have a bit of a longer run there. There's Pumpkin's Tail. So thank you folks so much for tuning in. This has been such a blast for us to be able to explore this format and try something a bit different, sort of doing a long form podcast review of a TV series. Again, it's something new for both of us. So we just, from both myself and Mike, just thank you so much everyone for checking it out and for sharing anything, liking, etc. on Discord and all of our social platforms. It is appreciated. You can find us on... Oh, hello, Pumpkin. You can find us on all of the things at Burly Bird Media, and we post up episodes of all of our shows, Absolute Candor, our various other podcasts, as well as our live show System Link and Burly Bird Live are also shared via YouTube, Spotify, and Podbean. Mike, where can people find you?
So the best place is at the xboxguide.com, which is like an Xbox news aggregator on a bit of a hiatus at the moment. Also on Threads and Blue Sky at the Xbox Guide, but I'm also on the Burly Bird Discord, so find me on there. It's probably best
place. Come and hang out at Burly Bird Media, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
See ya.